Hey, how you guys doing today? My name's Lisa, not Leslie. That's okay, it's okay. I'm happy to be here. I've been a licensed esthetician for over 20 years, about 22 now. I do own my own aesthetic school in Lewisburg, North Carolina, and I recently became a Sedesco diplomat. So my advice to you guys is never stop learning, keep going. So nice to meet you guys.
I'm Stephanie Holvick. I'm a registered nurse, owner of RN Faces and the Skin Classic, and hence the crown because we are skin tag queens, her and I. We both use the Skin Classic on our clients, so that's where that came from. And I'm super honored to be in this seat and be with NASNPRO since 2017. And for those of you that are new to NASNPRO, please stay tuned to their programs and come to their events, different cities, and I'll see your faces again, hopefully.
Hello everyone, my name is Zillmann. I'm the director and founder of Skin Rejuvenation Clinique, C-L-I-N-I-Q-U-E. And the reason why is because the doctor I worked with had clinic, and he gave me the name to run with about 32 years ago. So we were the first ones to bring chemical peeling to Texas. So we got a lot of press from local TV and local celebrities. So that was a real honor to be that way. I was also the first one to go into surgery to see skin grafting done. I worked with a burn doctor. So lots of experience in that. That's how we came up with the advanced rejuvenating concepts. We just needed a need to have a line of skincare products that we could put on skin that was healing. And then we went into a full retail of everyday skincare. Affordable everyday skincare for everyone. And so that's really what it's all about. That's my history, that's my background. I've got a lot of background in laser. I could probably tell you just about everything you're going to come against in the industry of working with people, employees, customers. I mean, we all can. So that's why we're all here. So go ahead and pick our brains while we're up here.
We're going to start with a question, and I'm going to have each of you answer the question. And that is, what advice would you give to someone just starting their own business? And in addition to that, with little funds.
Me again. So one of the things that I say that you need to do before you open a business is research, okay? Everybody thinks they can open a business and you can't. Some people just don't have the drive and the belief in yourself, like we heard from somebody earlier today, is that if you want it, you have to get it. You have to chase it, you have to grab it. You have to educate yourself, and you have to keep educating yourself. Because this is an ever-changing industry, it's a billion-dollar industry, and there's so many things that come out and, that obviously have been out for a while. Like everything comes reinventing the wheel. So, you just have to be fully prepared and researched and have a plan, a business plan. So you just stick to that and you should make it happen.
When I hear that people want to open their own business, and I know that they really want to, I generally give them the advice, sit back, perhaps work with someone first. Work in a spa or an office, a doctor's office, whatever it is, but gain that experience, that confidence before you hang out your own shingle. You'll get better business model aptitude, you'll be much more prepared with the procedures that you want to do that you find joy in. So that would be my advice to someone starting out.
I agree with that. Mentorship and finding a mentor to work with, it's very important. Too many times, I just had a girl that was sitting on my front desk because I like estheticians to actually work a front desk before they go into a room and train. And the reason why is because we're there to serve and we're customer service oriented. Sometimes we forget that we're there to serve. I can't remember how many birthdays, anniversaries, just different events that I just didn't make until like, all right, so I celebrated the birthday on a Sunday and not a Saturday, because Saturday's a great income day. Well, now, people don't want to inconvenience themselves as much. They don't want to be there for when the client can be there, and that's just it. You've got to have that drive to want to rearrange your schedule for that schedule of the client and be available when they're available. You can take your schedule and scale it down once you have your clientele to work with. But if you have no base to work with, you've got to take whatever you can get whenever you can get it. And that's something that we forget. Even if it's staying 15 minutes after the doors close. I've actually had people that won't even do that to take a brand new client. Don't be that person. The people that succeed are the people that are available. The people that want to succeed are the people that have the drive. Also, if you don't find a mentor like that, what is your base? Do you have a really big base? Are you going into a hair salon where you're with someone that's got a lot of clientele? Make sure you've got a clientele that you can actually market if you don't have one yourself. If you choose not to go in with a mentor or choose not to go in with a company, make sure that the base is busy, and maybe you're the only esthetician and there's 6 hairdressers. You know, that's a great place to be. So just make sure you're smart about it. And very little money, you don't really need a whole lot of money. You need more time than you need a lot of money. You don't need to advertise on a piece of paper because a piece of paper doesn't tell. Give away your services in the sense of auctions or school functions or silent auctions. That's the best way. Give someone a facial and say, if you love it, come back, book me next time. If you love it, send your friends. I need clientele. Show them what you're about with your hands.
How do you deal with fear and doubt? And what was the changing point in your career when you knew you would be unstoppable? How did you stay by that and create your future?
Good one. You go first. I have a lot in my brain to process.
Fear and doubt. So in regard to business, of course, we all have our fears, and I did as well, but I gotta be honest, there weren't that many because I was one of those driven people. No matter what came up, I seemed to always be able to rise to the occasion for whatever reason because I had my eye on the prize. So I maybe had a few setbacks here and there, but I just always kept moving, didn't I, honey? So, and of course, I think we all doubt ourselves. I don't know if you'd call it imposter syndrome when we do things that we've learned and seen other people do. Well, that always comes up. Or if you're writing an article and you think to yourself, well, why would I write an article? Why would anybody ask me? We feel like that. But you just do it. Do whatever will keep propelling you in your business. And the more you do that, the more shortcomings you have or things happen, it makes you so much better because if somebody dropped a lawsuit off at your office, your very first time, you might be like, oh my God, you would collapse, you'd feel terrible. It never happened to me 5 times or anything, but the more things happen like that, the more you deal with them. You learn how to deal with things like that. And in an aesthetic business, things can happen. The client calls and, oh my God, maybe you lifted a little skin when you wax somebody. That could ruin your whole week. So, but if it happens a few times, you know how to handle it. You know how to get right on the phone with the client and help them through it. So things get easier in our business the more that we deal with them. So, but I don't feel like I deal with too much because I feel like I've dealt with enough.
There you go. Thank you, Stephanie. So I had to process some things because one of the things that I know I had to do was, you know, you always have that one thing that you need to overcome, right? And when you doubt yourself, you need to just make mistakes, get yourself out there. For example, I used to be horrible at public speaking. I would get up here and I would just blank, right? So one of the things that helped me with my business when I first started out was networking. if you guys want to get your name out there, join a networking group, okay? There's actually women in networking groups, all kinds of networking groups. If you guys are in social media, take advantage of that, because you can see where there are. It's like 1 hour a week, from 8 to 9 in your local area. Now, I'm in North Carolina, but I can put money on that there's networking groups here in Virginia Beach. So that is one of the things that you should really look into. And then also, so that's what helped me be able to public speak, because in these networking groups, you have to stand up, state your name, and give like a 30-second spiel about yourself, your business, why you're here, what you do, okay? So you gotta be uncomfortable to then get comfortable. So that is tremendous, because somebody knows somebody of somebody of somebody. So it's one of those things where you just have to fake it till you make it. Be uncomfortable till you can get comfortable.
I was gonna say that I was taking notes on one of the speakers, and it was like uncomfortable to get, be uncomfortable to get, ahead. And it's true. And I sent it to my husband in the notes, like I just sent it to him, and he goes, "What are you talking about? You always are stepping out uncomfortable, and you always come out on top." And that's just it. You have to be uncomfortable because you're learning. So it doesn't matter, like hearing stuff here, we've all learned from everyone speaking today. We've all learned from you guys and listening to what you want. It's when you close yourself down to that, that comes in. The fear, you gotta burn a few people, you gotta tear some skin, you gotta learn exactly what to do with that, and you gotta have a mentor that helps you through that. And that's why it's really important to have a relationship with a company that has these professionals sitting behind the desk that can get estheticians to answer your questions, because you'll call frantic, "Oh my God, she's yelling at me and her face is burned. What do I do?" And then we'll say, "Calm down. When she heals, she's gonna be fabulous looking, but you gotta get through this and not let her see you sweat." And that's exactly it. So you are gonna be uncomfortable, you are gonna self-doubt yourself, but you know what? You're there because you have a passion for what you do. If you have a passion for what you do, you will go through all of that pain to get to the final stage of the reward.
Thank you. I'm gonna piggyback onto what Tina just said. Brene Brown has wonderful books where you choose courage over comfort. So it's being courageous enough to go against your comfort zone, right? And that's where you begin to see incredible change. So I highly recommend, if that's something you're curious about, want to know more about, look into Brene Brown. Our next question is, what marketing challenges do you have, and how did you get through it?
Hello. So a marketing challenge I had was when I first opened up my very first day spot, is I was like, okay, how am I going to get customers in, right? How do I reach my target market? So again, going back to networking groups, that's where I got my start. Because again, somebody knows somebody of somebody, right? And if you do a referral basis, if I refer to you, you're going to refer to me. If someone's looking for an aesthetic school, an esthetician, a massage therapist, or what have you. So, using that in person is really golden. Word of mouth is also even kind of with the networking aspect of it, but then also this time day and age, social media, which, all you guys, I'm sure, have tons of social media, but that's definitely a way to get your name out there. Taking videos, posting your content, making sure you're being consistent with all that stuff will really widen your customers.
I've not really had too many challenges when it comes to marketing. I've always been driven to do it, but as I became more of an educator, more of a distributor, my time with educating became completely overwhelming. So I have to actually be able to give up some of the marketing to a marketing team. And I happen to use a facet of hospitality with Jen Marie here at NASNPRO. So I feel like if you are so busy in the treatment room piling on marketing for yourself, might be daunting and something might get lost in the sauce, I would suggest using someone in social media to help you from the beginning so that you can concentrate on your business, stay off your phone, stay focused with your clients. So I think a marketing person would be good. I think you all should check out Jen Marie here at NASNPRO. She is awesome and very reasonable. Just my goal.
So I'm going to take it to word of mouth. I'm going to take it to people referring to you. I'm going to go back to the way we used to all do it. Social media is great. Influencers are, out there, fabulous. But what clientele are you guys targeting? What age are you targeting? Because you're going to get that younger age that really is all about social media on your Instagram. And can I tell you that we get more of our business on Instagram and Facebook for the thousands of dollars that we pay for social media? No, we have a presence. That's what we have. What brings the business in is working with the Chamber of Commerce, going to the socials, going and meeting people in your community. I have 3 different locations in totally different types of demographics. One is the wealthy that live on trust funds. Well, you can't market to them the same way that you do new money. And you can't market to them the same way you do country money. So people that live in the hill country and know everyone. So you really have to really get in there, and that could make you nuts trying to do that. But what doesn't change is the clients that are coming through the door. When you donate to organizations, when you donate to silent auctions, when you're part of the chamber in that area, you meet people in that area, and then you network with people in that area. So that is what I choose to do. That is good old-fashioned marketing. If you send me a person, I'm going to give you $25 off whoever comes and uses your name, and then you're going to get a little bit off. And all of a sudden that chain has now got you busy. Why would you need to do marketing if that's how you're getting it? Ask the clients for business. That's what you need.
Thank you. Our next question is, what does staying within scope of practice mean to you? And full disclosure, it's going to vary by state.
Yes. So I'm going to speak for the state of North Carolina because that's where I'm from. The scope of practice is really important, and it's definitely political based. So I don't know if you guys know, but kind of how it works in most states is that the governors and such write these rules, and then they give it to the state boards. Now, it's the state boards' decisions to interpret those rules based on what we can do or can't do. So I know for North Carolina, there was a lot of things that weren't in our scope that I in particular didn't agree with. So what I did was wrote a declaratory ruling. So what that is just means that I have to prove to the state board that based on, let's say, I actually did lash lifting and tinting for the state of North Carolina. So I wrote a 10-page declaratory ruling versing every single rule and why I think we could do it. Okay, so once I wrote that, I gave it to the board. It took them about their next board meeting, I think it was like quarterly. And then they gave me a notice back saying that based on what I wrote and kind of based it on the rules is that they took my interpretation and came up with their idea that is in our scope. So then that was granted under our scope of practice for North Carolina that we're now able to do it. So a lot of it is definitely political, but if you believe in something and you think it should be in your scope, then you should do something about it, okay? So, and that does vary from state to state. I know in Virginia there is a aesthetics license and also a master aesthetics license. So, and that can be, I don't know too much about Virginia's rules, but pretty much like, and you need to stay in your scope of practice. So for example, you guys are in Virginia, so if you're an esthetician and you can't do dermaplaning, for example, stay in your scope. Because we all know, so lot of people who practice outside of their scope, knowing darn well they shouldn't be doing that, right? And then one day they're gonna get caught, and then they're gonna lose everything they worked for. And then also the state board sees that, well, if you keep doing what you're not supposed to be doing, that gives them more fuel to the flame. Like, why are we giving it to them? Because they're gonna overstep these boundaries, and that we have no business working, for example, in the dermis, right? As estheticians, we all work in the epidermis. So that's what pushes it beyond the scope of practice. So my advice to you is please stay in your scope of practice, whatever rules and regulations are for your state.
Ditto that. And I've poured over many scope of practice papers. I'm a registered nurse. I've never gone to aesthetic school, yet I practice aesthetics. As a nurse in most states, I'm allowed to do these procedures that are not supervised by physicians, or prescriptions like injections and sometimes lasers. So I train nurses, and I've learned that pouring through all of the scope of practice for nurses, even estheticians, you have to read them very carefully, and you don't want to, in grayer areas, just assume that you can do something. But you can always call your board, and there's a few things when you're reading your own board, whether you're a nurse, even an esthetician or a barber. Things changed in a few nurses' rules and regulations, and it was the opinion of the nursing board that, say, a nurse could not do a certain procedure. So I called the board because this particular nurse wanted to use one of my pieces of equipment, and she said, well, it's not a rule, it's not a regulation, it's just our opinion. So she could do it. So that sounds crazy to say, but the board said she could do it, but it's our opinion that she shouldn't. And I said, well, how would that shake out if she went ahead, did the procedure? She goes, the only way that something could happen is if there was a complaint. Then the board, like any board, would say, what gives you the right to do dermaplaning? Were you trained? And if the nurse says, yes, I was trained, I trained, I watched some videos online, that wouldn't cut it. But if they were having hands-on training like you all do in school, that is what training is. And so you have to read really carefully, ask other people in your industry how certain things are interpreted, and not just to interpret it so you can do what you want. You want to stay safe. You want to be able to hang on to your insurance, and if, you know, God forbid anything happened, your insurance would cover you. So, but reading the rules and regs very carefully is interesting, and it may help you, and again, it would help you to look at those, and if you wanted to change the regulation, see how someone that went before you did it, and get the help so you can explore other options in your practice.
Those are all really great points, but it comes down to this. I mean, I was one of the presidents of AIA, so we were writing a lot of aesthetic. We've seen all the boards and what happens in each state. There's money in what we do. So in that being said, what we do is trying to be, right now, regulated by the medical community. It doesn't matter which state you're in. There are all sorts of doctors that are fighting to actually keep these services within their walls. And they're taking what we do and kind of scaling it down. And they have just reason, because we as estheticians were injecting Botox. We as estheticians were doing lasers that we shouldn't have been doing. And the reason why we were able to do that is if you work underneath a doctor, the law said that doctor trumps everything, and he can tell you what to do. So he can tell you to inject Botox, he can tell you to do a deeper peel, and underneath his supervision, you can do it. Well, now the states are now cutting all of that off and saying if it's not in your scope of practice, you can't do it. They're going after nurses, LVNs, RNs, estheticians, and they're trying to get it all put into a doctor's office. That is what they're doing at the board level. The only way to fight that is exactly what they said, is to stick up for yourselves and ask the questions. You know, stay in your scope of practice. I thought it was ridiculous that we had estheticians doing Botox. I've never worked with someone, I've never in my practice let someone do it that wasn't a registered nurse and had training and worked with a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a PA. And what that led is that gave them enough ground to make these rules different. I interview estheticians and they're like, I can't wait to learn this, and I'm gonna go to school to do Botox, and I'm gonna go to school to, like, what are you talking about? That's not even our scope of practice. We learned how to bikini wax and give facials, and then did some extra training on chemical peels and microdermabrasion, and that's what, there is plenty of money for staying in your scope of practice, but I will tell you, just because your insurance says it'll cover you for microderm, or just because your insurance says it'll cover you for microneedling, doesn't mean they'll cover you if your state doesn't say you can do it in your scope of practice. That's what it comes down to. So the insurance and your states are not talking either. So don't think you're safe if it's not your scope of practice. Find out your scope of practice, go to those meetings, ask about your scope of practice, work in that dermis. You can get plenty deep in the epidermis. You can get plenty deep. You can do dermaplaning if you can do dermaplaning. You can do light skin peels. You can do microderm. You can do layers. You can do trios. There's things that you can do where you're still in the scope of practice and still getting aggressive. But you've got to get those rules for your state down. We just got new rules changed, so that's why I know. They actually took out estheticians, barbers, and cosmetologists, so people were doing like Botox clinics in the back of salons or in houses. And that's what they basically stopped. You can't be a barber, a cosmetologist, or an esthetician and do anything like this. They're now going after, to be able to do microneedling, deep peels like Jesner peels or TCA, you actually physically have to have a doctor in the facility. So that's their next ruling they're going to try to do. And they're going to try to make sure that RNs in Texas, RNs, it's even questionable if they'll be able to do injectables unless the doctor is in the facility. Isn't that wonderful?
Thank you. Just so you know, depending on what state you are, you can easily sign up for email updates. That's one of the easiest ways to stay on top of what's going on. And again, every state is different, so you'll want to check your state. This is an amazing question. It's a little long. How have you adopted your techniques and client care approaches in response to major shifts in technology, ingredient innovation, and evolving client expectations? And what core principles have remained unchanged for you despite these industry transformations? No pressure.
For
We have
real.
about 5 minutes, so I'm going to give you a little more time. Don't worry.
Yes. Long question. So to answer the first part of this question about techniques, client care, and approaches in response to major shifts in technology, ingredient innovation, and evolving client expectation, this is a good one. So consumers are smart nowadays. Before, consumers did what you recommended. Nowadays, consumers are very smart. They do their research. They're coming to you saying all these questions, and if you should be able to answer those questions if you're an educated esthetician. So first and foremost, you need to be educated, okay? And don't blame it on the school. I hear that all the time, okay? What you put into it is what you get out of it, okay? No matter what, you got a book, right? You got this big thing called YouTube now, okay? So, and I hope that you're not teaching yourself in school. That's not what I'm saying, but you know, consumers know a lot these days. So be educated, and that's how you stay advantage. Your advantages of the curve is like knowing what some of these things are. Like even if they're not in your scope, even say for example, someone they're tired of waxing, right? And they want to move to laser hair removal or electrolysis. Obviously, you can't do those things if you work for yourself or not underneath a med spa or a doctor. So you need to have somebody you can refer them to, right? Just like referrals again, networking. So you gotta stay ahead. You gotta know what these things are, even if you don't offer them. Know what types of lasers are out there, Fraxels, YAGs, all these things, you know. know what these things are and who to refer people to. And so in my opinion, you know, that is huge. And then also knowing your ingredients. You know, ingredients is huge, right? You know, you have a lot of choices out there, but how do you choose your product, right? Because it's a nice package, because of what it does or what they say it does. Like, do your research, right? Look at the back of labels. You know, if you're not sure what the ingredients are, look them up. You know, there's a lot of bad ingredients out there, but there's also a lot of good ingredients out there. And that's what will separate you from choosing your product, and then also, you know, your clients using your products. So, knowledge is key. Sorry, I read the question.
Here, I'm gonna go, I process the second question. Can you just like?
I'm not sure.
It's pretty.
But to keep up to date, things have changed, and I've been in the industry for many, many years. But for me, the procedures that I've always done and stuck to are really nuts and bolts procedures of any aesthetic practice, like the norm. And sometimes the machinery can change a little bit, techniques may change, but if you stay on top of trade shows where you can actually see things, events like this where you can see, feel, touch, have it done to you, and when it comes to your skincare line that you want to offer your clients, just make sure that the company is very supportive, offers onboard training, things like that will keep you going throughout the years, because everything does change a little bit, but the nuts and bolts procedures are basically the same. That's all I can say.
To this day, we still do the same procedure we started with 30 years ago. So, a rejuvenation facial. It is a European facial that adds a light chemical peel. That has not changed. Your chemical peels, lactic, glycolic, salicylic, pumpkin enzyme peel, these have not changed. These still give the results. They give the results to plane off dead skin cell off the skin. When you do that, you remove pigmentation, you help lighten fine lines, you get a better texture to the skin, and you're planing off precancer cells. So everything that you're doing right there is healthy for the skin. That never changes. Microderm never changes. Your arsenal should be Microderm, crystal free is just a tube on your machine that goes to the suction. You don't need two machines. Ultrasonic, you know, the skin spatula, that is fabulous. It does cavitation and vibration, so it exfoliates, like it like power washes the skin. That is technology that's not changing. Then you reverse it, you penetrate into the skin. RF is kind of coming in, and although RF does really good, you can actually harm somebody with RF. That's not regulated. You can melt fat pads. You can melt the skin, you can melt filler. So kind of like not really. So I always say ultrasonic machine, chemical peels, microdermabrasion, a high frequency. I never have used a steamer since I left European skincare, because steam does not make a pore open or close. Steam makes the skin supple. Exfoliation makes the skin supple. Washing the skin makes the skin supple. Steam only adds to a couple of problems when you're dealing with someone that does anti-aging and skincare. So a mag light, a chair, a stool. How expensive is that? Not very. These tightening machines that say they tighten the skin, they're still out there. They're not proven results. You don't want to do anything that causes your client to not trust you in recommending. I like the LED, I like the infrared lights. You know, those add to the service. I like those. Definitely, if you can do it in your state, electrolysis or removal. We certify in laser. We can do IPL and hair removal in Texas. Those are very good. IPL, intense cold slide, hair removal. Both do what they say and say what they do. They go after brown spots, go after red spots. They clarify the skin. They make the canvas of that person look like a beautiful painting. And that's what you're after. Sagging skin, you're not gonna get much from that. You know, that takes medical, that takes a facelift. Can you temporarily tighten it with a laser? Sure. Can you do a little RF needling in your state? Sure, it'll give you a temporary lift, but stick to what works and build your clientele that way. Then research out as technology comes out, but I'll tell you what, there's never been any technology that has touched that technology. That technology is amazing. You know, it's tried, it's true, and it gets results.